The next episode. All right, let me get the Chronicle wheel back up. Let's see here. I'm going to remove Chronicle 10 because now that is done. I need to reshare my screen. Okay, is everybody ready to see what Chronicle we're going to get on this episode? Y'all love my little Cleaning Business Chronicles owl that I put here in the middle? Like, he's so bad. I love him. Chronicle 7. All right. I hope this is one of the funny ones or one of the there's a couple that like the person that wrote it like they're so funny. Like writing in the story explaining stuff was hysterical. All right, this is going to be a good one. All right, growing pains. I'm 7 years into my cleaning business and honestly everything feels like it's on fire. And I swear, I will say this, I feel like 7 years is that spot where everything catches on fire if you have not dealt with so many things yet. That's like, it's that 7 year mark. Mine was the same way. Anyway, 7 years into the cleaning business, into my cleaning business, and honestly, everything feels like it's on fire. The business has grown so fast in the last couple of years that I've barely had time to figure out how to manage anything on the administrative side. My finances are a mess. My employees are inconsistent. While they clean well, I'm dealing with constant call outs and unprofessional behavior. I have nearly 10 employees, but I'm struggling to make payroll every time. I'm not sure if the problem is that I'm undercharging or if my employees are milking the clock. I know the answers are somewhere in my business numbers, but I have no idea what I should be tracking or how to figure any of it out. I am so burnt out, and part of me just wants to go back to working alone and making good money, but physically, I can't sustain that model anymore. I really, really need help. I have a feeling Michelle's going to jump in first because when it's going to be a numbers one, Michelle is going to be the KPI, know your numbers girl.
Well, first off, I feel like there's a couple of different issues here. There's not
Mhm.
just a one thing that is going to get you out of chaos. However, um, a few small tweaks should help. First, let's talk about your finances. I am a huge proponent of Profit First by Michael Michalowicz. You literally put your money into different accounts that are earmarked for the certain things. So you would put money away specifically based on your payroll. So then your payroll is not, it is your payroll will be there. Now, in the first episode, I told the story about how my payroll bounced on Black Friday of 2019. And then I implemented Profit First, and I've never had an issue with that since. The money has always been where it needs to be. I'd also look into how often are you paying your employees. It definitely helped when I switched over to weekly instead of biweekly. It seemed a little crazy because if the money isn't there in 2 weeks, how's it going to be there in 1 week? But the thing is then you're not holding on to the money and run the risk of spending it elsewhere. Now, with your employees being inconsistent, you need to lay down rules. You need to get rid of the C and D players. You need to coach the B team players, and they should be coached by the A players. It would really help if you know what your core values are and what your vision statement is for the company, and hire and lead based on those. And as far as the burnout that you are feeling, trust me, I felt like I was having a perpetual heart attack back in 2019 before I had any systems in place. And as you slowly take some of these things off of your plate and systemize these things, you are going to start feeling more of the relief. So if you build out a calendar for yourself on what is the most important thing for you right now and work on it, take a week and work on it. And then the next week, do the second most important thing because now that's the first important thing since you took care of the first important thing. And each week, work on those things and you will get out of chaos in hopefully just a couple of weeks.
That's like you had it. How did you answer that so well, so quick? I just read the story. You like gave them step by step. This is what you're gonna do.
Because I've been there.
Yeah, yeah, you've lived. I think we've all probably lived it to some extent. It's
Yes. I had I fired all of my employees at one time, and then about a year later, all of my employees quit on me. And I had to go back out in the field with a broken foot.
Yeah, I
My
remember
dad had to
that.
come and help me. I
Mhm.
had how many I think I had, like, close to 100 clients, and only 1 employee stayed with me out of I think I had 7 at the time. And so I built my systems based on necessity. So I automated as much of my hiring process as possible and went completely virtual with it so that my virtual assistant that lives in Missouri can do it, even though we're located in Minnesota. So a lot of it is out of necessity. And even if you have something, even if you put something into place that works okay for right now, at least enough to put a really strong band-aid on it so you can move on to the next one, you can always come back and fix it better later.
Yeah. I'm curious with it- part of what I take from what he or she said is that they're not sure if the financial burden is coming from pricing or if it's some other issue.
Yeah.
So, is there any advice on how or what to dig into to figure that out?
For that small piece, and I mean, I have a lot more, but just for that, if you don't know where you're bleeding, I have a small a story. What happened to me was I felt the same way. I can resonate with this. I found out that my invoices almost all year were not, they were going into people's spam for some reason. Like I had many clients that were going into spam, and I recouped, thank God, I recouped $50,000. So all of my clients did pay. So
Wow.
I reached out to them systematically and they were gracious enough to pay, but that's where mine was. And who would think that, right?
Mhm.
That's not something that's obvious at all.
Yeah, because I
But
mean, you get the invoice and you send it out and stuff, and you don't that part of it shuts off, and you move to the
right.
next thing.
And
Yeah.
that's also a testament to growing really fast because I
Yes.
did. I grew super fast. And I couldn't handle everything. And one thing that I did was I handed off the invoicing prematurely. And so I wasn't watching it. But
Yeah, that's a lesson there too, is figuring out, and that's probably something for an unrelated different topic, but trying to figure out when to let go of stuff. So many
mhm.
owners I see struggle with either letting go of something at all or not letting it go at all. Tammy, what are your thoughts on this?
There's so much to unpack in what that person is saying. They're pretty, from the sound of it right away, they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
They're overwhelmed, they're burnt out, they're tired, they're discouraged. And I think the first thing to do is when you're super stressed, burnt out, or discouraged, you really need to take a step back because you don't think clearly. And sometimes what you think is the issue is really not the issue, but there's a lot to unpack. I almost wanted to meet that person and say, okay, tell me a little bit more because I have more questions for you than I do answers.
Right.
Um, if people are calling out, so one part is if people are calling out sick or are not coming in, there's a motivational issue there. There's definitely work to be done from the employee standpoint. The motivation could be because she's not charging enough, she's not paying enough. The other one could be in how she's actually working and motivating with her staff. What's the company culture look like? What's the communication? Is she so or he so head buried in the sand trying to growing so fast that no longer dealing with the employees on a human interpersonal basis? You know, Sometimes we can get really caught up in business and we're out there doing schedules and we, want to give them hours and we want to give them work and, kind of sometimes might be guilty of treating them like robots and saying, well, you're out there and you're just doing your job, but are we really checking in to see how they're doing? A big part of that is I would give the first advice of take a step back, take a weekend off, go somewhere remote, allow yourself to cry because it's going to happen. Don't feel like a failure, but really think about if you were to start over right away, if you were to start over, where would you start? What do you want your company to actually look like? What do you want it to feel like? Because all those things are actually in our control. So if you feel that the employees are not happy, why are they not happy? Why do you think? Of course, you're going to have to validate this by having conversations with people. And once you start having those conversations with the employees, you're going to learn a lot more and unpack it. And you have to be really honest and real with yourself to say, I'm going to be open to receiving the feedback, because like when customers complain, it's a gift. So is it when the employees actually tell you what they're feeling, because it takes a lot of courage in order to say so. But start with really taking a step back, taking a weekend away from everyone, resting, sleeping, and saying, if I started again, what do I want my company to look like? How do I want it to feel? And if it feels good, how can I be a better employer? How can I give them a better job? How can I service my customers better? These thoughts and ideas will start coming to you. Ultimately, it sounds like this person knows, and usually we know what's not right. We have two things that stop us: fear. We have an idea of what we need to do to fix it, but we're so afraid of, what do I do if I raise my prices? I'm going to lose all my customers. It's
Yeah.
fear that usually stops us. And the other thing is, I have an idea. I know what I should do. I don't know how to do it.
Mhm.
And I always feel like the help is too expensive and I can't afford it. And that's another fear that prevents us from actually moving forward. So the best advice is go sleep, rest, figure out what your company looks like, how you want it to feel. Take a little bit of an investment and go get the help you need, because you're going to torture yourself for the next few years trying to figure it out all on your own. Many more sleepless nights, many more nights crying in the shower because you don't want anyone to see you, when help could be right around the corner. And in literally weeks, you can turn it around and love the company that you've created.
Yeah.
Wow, that is such amazing advice. And I would say too, don't be afraid of having to start over. Because every time, Tammy, you had said earlier that you've had to start over a couple of times too. And
3 times.
each time I have started over, I came back bigger, better, and faster than I was before.
Absolutely.
I think with this chronicle in particular, like Tammy said, it kind of alludes to the fact that maybe she knows what's going on, but she's looking for validation
Mm-hmm.
in what she's, thinking too, which again, I think we talked about that on the last episode, having the supportive ring around you of people that know what you're going through. Sometimes we need that validation. Sometimes we need somebody to tell us, you know what, you're not charging enough. And yeah, it is scary to raise your prices, but if you do it systematically and you look at who's undercharged, maybe not all the customers are, different things like that. So there was a lot to unpack in that one. Kate, you had said you had more notes because you were over there scribbling. What else you wrote down?
This person sounds a lot like me. I built my company as I flew it completely. So I had nothing in place, and I grew super, super fast. And it was scary. And I had an eye twitch and a small nervous breakdown. Just don't give up. Do not give up. And you will get through this. This is just a phase of business that people go through all the time. You've heard other people talk about this. There was one time I was putting my jacket up on a hook, and I ended up on the floor in a ball crying because I couldn't get my jacket on the hook. So this stuff happens. So like I said, I found where my leak was. It wasn't because my finances were okay. I was just not getting paid. Something that I would never anyway. Look at that. And then you've got a ton of advice, and I would start with the low hanging fruit. So start with the easy thing, looking to see if you're getting paid. Look to see if you're getting paid from everybody. I do that on a regular all the time. And now I've got, from October, I've got $3,000 coming from me from invoices that never got paid. So I go through this all the time and I look for this. seen how mistakes or things that look like they're bad at first, if you don't give up, they'll turn into just a learning experience, and you'll come back bigger and stronger. And then what did I have to say? Oh, I was just the employee thing. Have you ever heard the term like stuff runs downhill?
Mhm.
So, that's probably what's going on with your employees. If they're feeling, any sort of thing from you, it's going to have a trickle down effect. Try to find your zen, like it's going to be okay. This is just a season. Start working on your one thing, like Michelle said, and then work on your next thing, and just keep plugging away, and things will just have faith that things will turn the corner.
And while you're plugging away, remember to sometimes walk away and take a break. I think
Oh,
that that is a cycle that we get stuck in. Is like, okay, we've thought about what we need to do and kind of research what we need to do to fix this, and now we've got 30 steps. So now we're burning ourselves out on trying to do everything at once and hurry up and get it done. Focus on one thing, work on it, walk away, take a break, set a time to stop work. We're gonna work on the weekends, especially if we are in the creative mode and stuff. But even if you are in that mode, like try to set a hard and fast rule where for 4 hours at least on the weekend, you're not working. You're doing anything but that because your brain just needs the break. Because what will start to happen when you, even if you feel like it, and you're working and working and working and these high intensity, get a whole bunch of stuff done, work zone type things, your eyes are going to start playing tricks on you. And your mind is going to start playing tricks on you too, because you're going to circle back to that next week and go, did I do that already?
Mhm.
Because you rush through getting everything done. This, for example, and I still do this with rescue, is I put the post out the other day and was like, hey, any owners want to join us? We're going to go ahead and start recording next week. I did not expect the interest that we got. I thought maybe a couple people would be like, I'll do it. I had to go ahead, build the page, build the forms, build the disclaimers. Like I worked all weekend. Like I messaged Courtney and I was like, I know you hate it when I work weekends, but what do you think? Is this good to go? Because Courtney's basically the yeah, that's good, go on, kind of owner right now. But I took a break. Time to watch TV with Buddy. I might have worked from the time I pretty much got halfway through a cup of coffee until Buddy got home. But when he got home, I stopped. And even though I sat on the sofa thinking about what I was going to do the next morning while he was sleeping in and I was drinking that next cup of coffee, I needed that break, because if I had just pushed through the whole entire process, building it out so I could implement it, I'm telling you, a week from now, you won't remember what you built.
Right.
That's the downside of it. It's you've got to walk away sometimes and give yourself a break.
At
It,
least,
it's
at least today. I mean, but I think also from a productivity standpoint, one really crucial and great advice that I received from a business coach was to do time blocking. I became so much more productive. So yes, we all have lots of things that we want to accomplish and change and improve in our business. And I don't think any business is really perfect out there, but I manage my time so much differently now than I did then. I get so much more done now than I did then, but I break things down to smaller, more manageable tasks. But my time is very much accounted for. Like what time I'm driving my daughter to school, what time am I able to work, and even on weekends. So I'll make sure that my time that I can work is also productive time. There's no point in trying to get things done on projects if it's, smack in the middle of you having to make lunch for your kids. That's not going to work. You're just going to get frustrated. They're not going to get the best out of you. That's definitely not work-life balance. And I don't know about you, but moms, we feel terrible when that happens because the guilt just sets in. So to plan your time of When am I going to be able to do this without interruptions? Out interruption time could be like 1 hour, just plug it away, getting it done. That sense of accomplishment of saying, today, I'm just going to write this email to these clients. Today, I'm going to create this template. Today, I'm going to prepare for my meeting of next week of meeting with my employees. What am I going to do for this 1 hour that I'm not going to let anything else interrupt me for? That's it. It's a non-negotiable. Maybe it's waking up at 5 a.m. That's why it's so popular. Before everyone's actually awake, going a quiet little area. Could be the same thing on the weekend. But that 1 hour investment of uninterrupted time is the equivalent of 4 hours of trying to get something done when there's a room full of people in the house wanting your attention. And then
Yeah.
you'll just have a much happier, guilt-free time off. Because it's hard in the beginning, right? You feel like you need to do all kinds of things and to move your business forward. And you almost feel guilty for taking time off when that's the very reason why you want to create this business in the first place. Is so
Yeah.
that you would have some flexibility to spend time with your family or take some time off or work a little less hours. Aren't we crazy as entrepreneurs? We, go into leaving this 9 to 5 job in order to open up this business to work 120 hours a week. And then after we feel guilty that we actually want to enjoy some of that time freedom. So I found the most effective technique has really been about time blocking and saying, okay, so I have 3 binders, no lie, of all projects filled of things that I want to do, 3 binders. And I'm just plugging away slowly. Okay, what is going to impact my business? What's going to maybe be easier to get done? Low hanging fruit, as Kate said before, what's going to help my business drive forward? But I got to tell you, my time is more productive and I feel amazing because I feel like I'm actually making progress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's rewarding. And now I can take that Saturday afternoon off to do whatever I want to do, either spend time with my family, go for a walk, go for a hike, and not have to worry that I have to answer an email, answer a phone call, plan out a schedule. It's like, I don't have to do any of that because it's taken care of and I can just wait until tomorrow. So having at least one day off, I think is really important in order to fuel your fire and keep you motivated without getting burnt out.
And a good point to this too that you guys are making is, as you're, plugging through the list of things that you need to do, whether it be your notebook or whatever, work on the things that will benefit the business. We are always going to have these super cool, fun ideas that we want to create and we want to do. But if there is something on that list that is going to impact your bottom line, your sanity, your employee sanity, if there is something else vital that needs to be done, you got to be disciplined and do that first. Work on the fun stuff later. Work on the things that will have an impact on your business right now. That's a big lesson. That was a hard one for me to learn because I wanted to work on all the fun, creative stuff. I didn't want to work on employee policies and SOPs,
Mhm.
but that's the stuff that needed the attention.
I would like to make a comment too on with Kate saying, stuff runs downhill. And if that could be the issue with the employee problems. Let me tell you, that is the best case scenario because you and only you can change yourself. You cannot change other people. So it is the absolute best case scenario if you are the problem. I loved it when I figured out that I was the problem because I can make the changes.
Yeah, and that's a hard one for some people to look at too, is they go, okay, wait a minute, the commonality in all these issues in this company is me. I'm the hot mess. But you're right. When you realize that it's you, it's easy to learn how to change yourself. If the problem lays elsewhere, that's a lot harder to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Lashana, with your business, because your business model's different, you've got so many Airbnb ones. But you've still got to deal with the employee stuff. You've got contractors too that I'm sure you have to deal with drama from them. You've got to stay on top of quality across, I don't even know how many accounts. I'm curious, like, how do you manage your quality specifically, because that is something like if at whatever, well, I think it said what size she was at. She's having those issues now. I can't imagine what it would be like at your size. Like quality is huge at a, at any point, but as you grow, that's something you really got to hone in on.
With Airbnbs, it does get quite different. And if you just look at it from a perspective of someone that does mainly Airbnbs, we're not just cleaning for one family. We're cleaning for 6 to 10 different people, and we have to satisfy all of them based on our standard of cleaning. So it gets it can become challenging, but 10 years ago, I invested in good coaches for training, being able to systemize things. With them being Airbnbs, they're pretty much all the same. We changing sheets, we making beds, checking drawers, so you get your process and it becomes easier. But going back to the Chronicle, what I heard everybody talk about, which was really, really, really important, the whole resetting, that'll get you where you want to start, just resetting. But to remember your why, that I think is going to be one of the big things on that list. When you feeling like you're just ready to throw in that towel, if you can remember that why, it'll give you that extra motivation to keep on going. Time blocking and goal setting, definitely. So I would suggest resetting, remembering the why, setting the goals, and then time blocking. And like Michelle said, taking one every week. And if you can time block a couple of days out the week to just focus on those things and knock them down, and writing them down makes such a big difference to see that list getting scratched off. I think Kate talked about starting with the smaller ones first. It just makes you feel so much more accomplished, and like you can move forward now. This is done, this is done. You get bigger and bigger as you knock down the smaller things. And again, just remembering the why. If it means just putting a picture of the kids or the dog or yourself, how you want to see yourself, just remembering your why and, using that as a motivator to get things in order.
Yeah, I love the idea. I think it was Angelica. I can't remember. Somebody a few years ago, right around New Year's, it was around this time of year, we had like a workshop. I think it was Angelica that taught everybody how to do vision boards in Canva.
Mm-hmm.
And
Angelica.
that is such a handy tool, is to have that vision board. You can set it as your laptop background or whatever, so that you see it a lot, or you can print it off and hang it up and stuff. And it's a spin on, the old fashioned ones where you would actually, scrapbook it all together or whatever. But the digital one's cool too, and you get screenshots of stuff and pictures of the people that are important, and you just build this vision board that helps you remember, why you're doing this and what your goal is, and, what you want it to look like and stuff. And I think that would be, that's an excellent way to help you kind of reset, because in some moments we're working on something and we really need to walk away, we really do need a break, but for whatever reason we can't. We've got to get that done by 5 o'clock before the bank closes or the insurance company closes or whatever. Sometimes if you need that 30-second reset, having that image somewhere in your workspace, just take a couple minutes and look at it, that will help too. So that's excellent information there. I love that. I love that. I hope who wrote that post watches this one, because I know that post was, I was in a forum, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, like when we started setting up to do Cleaning Business Chronicles, and it was one of the first ones that I had reached out and asked about using it, and they're still struggling.
Oh.
If
They
you go
haven't-
back to Zen May 2014, that might be my same post.
I don't think I went back that far in the group. Look, I would love to go back and look up some of my old posts. I never even thought about that. I bet that would be funny.
It is.
That would be so funny. Well, I can't get into some of the groups that I posted in, but
Fair.
yeah, I'm not the only one here, Black.
Fair. So
Yeah.
I have a quote that I have on my computer just right next to my trackpad. It says, "Do something today that your future self will thank you for."
Before. Yep.
Mm.
Mhm. But for a long time, I had a Post-it note there that said, "I am a $500,000 business by," I want to say it was October of 2023. I looked at that thing every single day for like 5 years. Now I can't remember the date on it. But by the time I was finally able to rip that sucker off, it was so tattered and torn, and it like gave me, as I was typing, it gave me paper cuts, but I refused to take that thing off because that's what reminded me every single day that I'm gonna do this.
I did. I don't know if any of y'all remember. I think y'all were in the same group when I shared it. And this was several years ago. But when I went through that process of, okay, this is everything that's wrong in my business and I've got to fix all this stuff, it was before I got super digital. And I had wrapping paper taped up. Does anybody remember this on the wall behind me? Whoop, on the wall behind me. And I had sticky notes, and every sticky note had a task on it that I had to do. And it was a whole wall. And we would get on the weekly or monthly or whatever calls it was. And part of what I think made it so fun for everybody else on the calls that week was for them to see how many sticky notes I had cleared off of it. It took months to clear that wall. Because I mean, there was some big projects in there. I had to overhaul basically the entire business, write policies from scratch. My business was a mess.
I have a process for that. I have a process that classifies things as done in a day. So I prioritize, can I do this in a day? If it's done in a day and it's going to have a big impact on my business, that's going to be first.
I like
That.
that. I like that.
Tammy, where have you been all these years? We've needed your expertise.
Hiding behind a camera.
Yeah, she's been being shy.
Ah, well, you are done being shy.
Yeah, you're part of the Zoom crowd now, so. All right, guys, we're gonna do some red flag, green flag. Let me get back over to that, and then we'll call it an evening. A business owner decides to waive fees for clients who cancel less than 24 hours in advance to avoid bad reviews.
If it's to avoid bad reviews,
I'm gonna
Well-
have this both.
so why I say if it's only to prevent bad reviews, I think that's a red flag.
Mhm.
However, we waive our cancellation fees more often than we charge them.
Right.
Um, we have, I think ours is even a 48-hour policy, but honestly, the only way I'm going to charge is if we are on, if our cleaning techs are already on the way to your house. Um, but even then, it's case by case. We just
Yeah.
recently had somebody whose husband passed away. I am not going to charge her a late fee,
Right.
but I'm going to let her know, oh my gosh, because, I'm so sorry to hear that this is what you're going through. I'm going to waive that fee for you this time. So then they know that there should have been a fee. So then,
Or at least phone call.
right. So then at least next time, if they're going to cancel at a last minute, which more than likely they're not because, this is a one-time situation, but they're going to know and realize, but they're also going to appreciate that you took care of them in their time of need. So it's definitely a case by case. If we're locked out of a house because somebody forgot to unlock the door, yeah, you're getting the cancellation fee. But, if you've been calling us all night long to let us know that somebody in the house is sick and we hadn't answered, I'm going to waive the fee for you.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say if it's to avoid a bad review, I'm not waiving it. I mean, that's just me. I think that was on the. I'm gonna have to start saying I think it was on the previous episode because I don't even know what episode we're on now at this point. I feel, but Tammy was talking about, sometimes the bad reviews aren't necessarily a bad thing. So if a client is telling me you're going to waive this or I'm going to leave a bad review, I'm going to send them the Google link.
Mhm.
Sorry, because my response is going to be epic. That's pretty much where I'm at.
It really does, though, depend on their situation. You know, if the bad review is because they're saying that you're not having a compassionate heart and something that the general public are going to conceive as being a reasonable excuse or reasonable reason for, canceling at the last minute, you're going to crucify yourself.
Right.
So,
Depends on it depends on the reason, but anybody that like Michelle's saying, the woman's husband died, or understandable circumstances, those, obviously we're not going to charge them. What I'm looking at is they're threatening to leave a bad review for a legitimate charge.
What would be a legitimate charge? Because I've heard some people stick it to their customers for things that I say, oh my goodness, where's the compassionate heart in here? Like there are some things that are outside of the customer's control.
Yeah.
So hydro, I don't know how your electricity company decides they're turning off electricity. They're doing work in the area, no notice given. Reasonable or not reasonable?
That would be different. That would be. I mean,
But
somebody
well,
gets
what's really interesting though is when we say it's different, I've seen and heard examples of other business owners where say, well, it's a hard and fast rule. I don't care. You could have maybe given me notice, what have you, I'm charging you anyway. And I will say that it's debatable. Was that showing compassion? Was that showing caring? Do you really want to put yourself in a situation where you're saying, I want the money because the money is what's my motivator first before anything else? So I'm thinking about that $100 or $150 that I might get from, or $200 from this cleaning, because that's what my motivation is for giving that lockout fee to you that I'm going to charge you for the cancellation, versus what is that review going to cost you because you are not appearing to be service oriented or having a compassionate heart.
I think also it's going to depend too, sort of on the amount of it too, because lockout fees can vary company to company. I know some people have got extraordinary lockout fees. Now, if we have sent you the reminder, you have confirmed your appointment, and then between that night and the next morning, you forgot we were coming and we are locked out and we are standing on your porch and I've got 2 employees to worry about, they are always going to be my top priority. So if I say, yeah, no, we're going to charge this $25 lockout fee, $25, be a little bit different if it was a $100 or $150 lockout fee.
We're charging full fee, Sandy. If we show up to the door and
Really?
yep,
Wow.
if we're showing up at this point, the way I see it is, why should a company be at a loss and why should the employees be at a loss? We're selling time here. We are selling blocks of time. That block of time cannot be sold once it's gone.
Right.
I just don't think I've ever met an owner that was like, you know what, I'm going to charge the whole fee.
But I put it in my appointment reminders. So
Yeah.
my appointment reminders go out 48 hours ahead of time, and I put it in there, the reminder. Of course, I am always going to have a compassionate heart. If there is a valid reason that something's within the control, that's outside of the control of the customer, a death in the family, someone's fell ill overnight, you know what I mean? I don't want my employee going to a house where somebody's got, the gastro, and then they're going to be out for 2 weeks.
Right.
So I will call that a compassionate reason. Of course, if that happens, twice every other month, then I might have to relook at the fact that you're frequently canceling, and we'll have to renegotiate the terms of our agreement at this point, or the frequency of your service. I might no longer give you a guaranteed Friday. So I might take it out as another way. But if I am sending you an appointment reminder, you've got 48 hours to make a change. You've got 24 hours at 50%. Once I show up at your door and you're there, you're paying me full fee. And I'm going to call you and remind you to say, hey, they're there. You saw it. And I remind you at every single cleaning appointment, reminder that's sent out to you 48 hours ahead of time, that if you don't make a change in time, I'm charging you a full fee.
Tammy.
Yeah, I feel like that would be like a whole other, that could be a whole other roundtable too, is like the policy surrounding that. But Kate has got to hop off, so I want to tell her thank you real quick before she hops off, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up after that. I think I've got one more I'm gonna do.
Okay.
With
Everybody.
Tammy's, nice to meet you, Kate.
Nice
with
meeting you.
Tammy's policy, I don't think I would care if they were frequently canceled if I can charge the whole fee.
Well, and this is one reason I was so excited about
They
doing
don't cancel much, right? I don't
But
get
if
all
I'm
the
getting a full
cancellations.
payment, and if I'm getting a full payment, I don't care if we can't get in.
But
I
I gotta
wouldn't
tell you,
cancel them. I would look forward to those times when they're not
Right?
there.
oh, I
But
gotta tell you, I really don't have a lot of cancellations because
Yeah.
of that. But
that's what I want to know, is because statistically the numbers, the way that this will affect that, I'm so enthralled in things like that. I'm losing my voice from being on here now. Y'all count your blessings. It ain't gonna stay going long. Y'all gonna hear me talk. But I'm wondering, with someone that charges the full fee or even a really hefty lockout fee, even if it's not the full, but it's over half or whatever, how does that affect their lockout rate? Is it the
I
ones that are trying to be nicer that, like we always charged a lower fee? The clients might not take it seriously.
Right.
I would
yeah.
be curious to see like comparisons on that. So like if you're charging like a, $25-$50 lockout fee versus 100 versus full price, where do those numbers lie? Because that would be really interesting to dig into.
We charge a 50% lockout fee. We have about 320 appointments on the books, roughly per month. And we get anywhere between 8 and 12 people who skip their appointment per month.
But there's a difference
Ours
between
is
skip their
awesome.
appointment and they're doing it ahead of time
That is,
because,
yeah,
or canceling at the last minute. Because skipping, we're not going to charge them a full cancellation. If it's more than 48 hours notice, we are going to charge them based on their frequency. So if they're a biweekly customer, they want to skip, they're going on vacation, great, you have a great time. When we come back, it's going to be 4 weeks from the last date of service. I'm going to charge you the monthly rate. So
Right.
there's going to be a little bit of a bump up. Again, we make that very well known right away on the sales call. Even we talk about it. We talk about it in a very open and transparent way. That's completely different, in my opinion, than someone wants to skip and it's kind of planned versus I've booked your appointment, I've confirmed it, I've sold you the spot. That's time that I cannot sell to anybody else now. Now you're going to pay 100%. But again, I wouldn't do that without prior strong communicating. That's why we over communicated and we put in our appointment reminders that go out every single appointment. So we're conditioning our customer to say, it's coming if you do it. Of course, we have compassion in our heart. If it's a reasonable, like you had said, someone passed away, like, okay, from a business owner standpoint, we might say, well, why couldn't they call us? Well, they maybe couldn't bring themselves emotionally to make that phone call to send that. They're probably not thinking about their cleaning appointment. They have so many other things going on. I could find it reasonable to say, I'm going to show a compassionate heart. I'll make the exception. I won't charge you this time.
mhm.
But if for sure somebody has something that is within their control and they're getting charged, and I have to tell you, they're probably not going to cancel again. And that's what we see. We've seen that by enforcing that, by over communicating and by enforcing it, we really don't have a lot of customers that cancel.
Yeah.
They
I'm
might skip an
curious.
appointment, but they won't cancel. It's a lot less chaos on the schedule.
Right. We
I-
get maybe 1 to 2 that per month, maybe. And that's I do feel like it's the same people over and over again.
Do you feel or you track? Because we track it. We record it. We note it. We also note it when we've advised a customer and we follow up with an email. So we have an email trail that, we let you know, blah, blah, blah. Even if we make an exception, we're going to follow up the conversation with the customer with an email, which is now in their account to say, thank you so much for the call today. So just as a reminder, going forward, should this happen again, blah, 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 we're going to be charging you for that lockout fee. And if you don't, and we're conditioning saying, if you don't call us before 48 hours notice, if ever you foresee that you have something, let us know as soon as possible. You know what I mean? So we're following up with that. And if the customer is a frequent skipper, right, then we're definitely going to have a conversation to say, Mrs. Smith, it appears that considerations have changed for you, conditions have changed, and your service needs have changed. Like, it looks like they're no longer the same.
Mhm.
Instead of having service once every 2 weeks, maybe you need service once every month. And it's okay if that's the case. And let's maybe explore different options that are better suited for you. Because right now, we've noticed the trend that you're canceling quite often. You've canceled or skipped 8 out of the last 16 appointments. So it appears that your service schedule needs to maybe change based on your current circumstances or needs as of today. And it probably changed compared to 2 years ago when we originally signed on your service.
I'm curious also with that, with the transparency and when you're on the sales call and you're going over the policies and you go over that, does that serve as a filter to getting your ideal clients that are they're not worried about it. They're gonna consistently be on the schedule, so they're not worried about it, or they feel like, yeah, hey, yeah, that's fair. And it
Yeah.
would help a lot with filtering out, the ones that go, wait a minute, you're going to charge me full price if I cancel? Like, no, that's going to get rid of those customers that you don't even want to deal with. I think that's a good little net to have in there. I like
Yeah,
that.
we definitely talk about pricing based on frequency. And we also very clearly, intentionally, there are some people that want a specific time of the day, and that's the reality of our business, is a lot of moving parts to it. They'll say, no, I need this every second, week, and I need a 2 o'clock, and you need to guarantee it. We upfront in the sales call say we guarantee the day, not the time.
Mhm.
So, and then we'll go into the explanation as to why. Of course, this is a sales call. I'm not trying to talk people out of business, but I
Right.
am trying to talk about the things that we know are not a good fit for us,
Mhm.
and being completely open and transparent right in that sales call to say, if this is not a good fit for you, that's okay. But it's definitely not a good fit for us. If you need to know 100% you're going to have, Susie every second Tuesday at 2 o'clock, reality is I'm not going to be able to commit to that. I'm not
Right.
going to be able to do that consistently and reliably every single time. It might be Tammy and it might be at 12, but it'll definitely be on Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do one more, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up because Buddy has already like slipped the door open and like peeked at me. Let's see here.
While you look for that, we have 2 clients that always will cancel. One of them was a frequent flyer to the hospital, and another one, I think, with her job, she got called in, and we just made it a habit to call the night before and that morning just to make sure, to try to avoid
But then what do
any
you do afterwards?
unforeseen lockouts.
So what do you do afterwards though? If you know, okay, so I'm going to play Russian roulette today and they're going to be there or they're not going to be there. You are selling blocks of time. If they're not going to be there, do you have a backup plan in order to be able to fit that in? Because you're penalizing the employee by taking revenue away from them. You never know if you're going to be able to give it to them or not.
Our schedule pretty much, we work a lot. And with those 2 clients, we call them the night before, like the one that's in the hospital a lot. Anything can happen, but we'll call her that morning also. And if she agrees, say, yeah, I'll be home, then we know it's safe to go out. But it's on, like, we couldn't make it a
But why?
practice or do that with every client. But because of those 2 and I guess their personal circumstances, we kind of
But
go
why
the
do they need
extra
to be home?
mile.
But why do they need to be home? At that point, why don't you create a lockbox and keep it outside?
I got older clients. Some have been with me as long as I've been in business, and a lot of them just like to be home. A lot of them still like to write checks because of the long-term relationship. We kind of like make,
It sounds like
accommodations
you've
for them.
conditioned the client to say that they need to be home in order for you to clean, and that you accept that they may or may not be there. But the person you're penalizing the most is the employees.
Well, they still have enough work to make up for their 8 hours for that day. Yeah.
They have enough work, meaning, so are you paying them for the time that they would have gone to clean there? Or are you substituting another job? Like, how are you doing that?
You substitute another job. Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. So you have another job in the waiting. Because I mean,
I've been
you are
doing it for
conditioning the
years, and they've been
customer.
my clients for years. When you do the math on how often we go and how long they've been with us, it makes sense. Again, it wouldn't be something we would put into practice to call everybody the night before,
Right.
then double confirm in the morning. But because we've been cleaning for them 10 to 15 years,
people age, disabilities may come into play, and we're not just gonna drop them because they have frequent emergencies. You
No,
make
but you could
some
definitely manage
accommodation.
the situation differently though, right? But at the end of the day, it's your business and you decide. The only person, as on an outside point of view, I say two things. One, you're creating and creating a condition, a new condition from which a framework that you're going to work. My only concern from the outside point of view is that your employees are not the ones that are being disadvantaged by this business decision.
No,
Because
not
it
at
does
all.
feel a little bit of a chaotic situation. Am I going? Am I not going? Am I going? Am I not going? Am I going? Am I not going? I mean, if
The
they're,
employees, nah. I guess it depends on if your scheduling's different from ours. We basically always have somewhere to go. So
yeah,
time is
if they're not
there.
disadvantaged in any way and you have a way of managing your exceptional situations, you have two. Two is not maybe like 20, but I mean,
Right.
I would definitely be saying at some point, I'd be looking at, do I want to condition that to maybe respond differently or start talking about it anyways?
All right, red flag, green flag, last one, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It took me a minute to find this one, but I'm curious to see, especially with, well, I guess not really the different business models, but with all of you guys having a lot of employees total, what y'all think of this. So, an employee takes the initiative to resolve a small issue with a client directly and reports back to you afterward.
Red flag.
Explain. Why is that a red flag, Shonda?
Everything goes through the office, and our cleaners don't necessarily know all of the things that we do in the background and all of the policies that we have in place. But it's one of those things where you give them an inch, it's going to grow and grow, and then you'll have a serious situation on your hands. Everything is communicated through the office. Any complaints, any add-ons, any suggestions, everything comes through the office.
So
Communication
do you
builds
still say,
trust.
but I love your initiative, but don't do that again? Is
Mhm.
that
I just had to
basically
go
the
through,
approach you take?
yeah, that's a hard red flag.
Shonda said no.
I would say it's a red flag and a green flag. I agree everything goes through the office, but if it's something, like a small breakage. So we recently had, actually it just happened today. Somebody accidentally broke a picture frame and the client was home. That doesn't need to go through the office. The office definitely needs to know, but it doesn't need to go through the office for the office to call the
As it
client who's sitting right next to the cleaning tech
Yeah.
for us to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Sierra accidentally broke your picture frame. How would you like us to deal with it?" Sierra was able to take care of it and then let us know about it. Now, if it's a payment issue or if it's something major like that, if it's a reschedule or a cancellation or anything like that, that 100% needs to go through the office. If it's a time difference in their schedule, any of that, definitely.
Yeah.
But if it's oh my gosh, what kind of cleaner do I need to use on your floor, because I see you got brand new floor. If the client's there, talk to them. You don't
Yeah.
need us to talk to them for you if you are right there with them. So it's a
You
red
want
green.
to see the initiative in them, but they also need to know within what settings or what restraints that initiative is being taken.
Yeah.
Do you see it as a good sign if you've got an employee who consistently takes initiative on those little small things that don't have to go through the office right now? And do you see it as a bad sign if you've got one that's consistently basically trying to handle everything on their own?
Yeah, if they're trying to handle everything on their own, obviously that's, definitely a red flag.
I feel like
But
that's too dominant. That's too much of a dominant personality.
right. But
It-
if it's these little things, honestly, we kind of have the opposite the opposite thing where people are cleaning techs are like, "Oh my gosh, the client is home. What do I say?" You say hi. And it's like, "Oh my gosh, somebody's here. I can't talk to anybody." So we kind of have the opposite issue here. Like I can't tell you how many times I've had cleaning techs call me and be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't get into the house. Did you turn the doorknob?"
Did you
Oh.
ring the doorbell?
Oh, yeah, it is unlocked. Why did you think you couldn't get into the house? Well, because I knocked and nobody came. Yeah, they're never home. And you've been going there for 12 months. But it's like they just have this we tend to hire more introverted people rather than extroverted people. So as soon as there's somebody else there, they're like, "Nope, I don't like this."
Yep, I know what you mean, and it's so funny too because when you clean, and when I was in the field, I know I cleaned for, oh Lord, probably a few years before I would meet a client sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And, they would come in while I was cleaning and it would immediately throw me completely out of my routine and everything because I'm like, oh my God, they're here. I've been cleaning for them for 3 years. I know their house, I know their dog, but I've never laid eyes on them to see them besides in a picture frame. And it
Right.
would completely mess me up and I would end up there so much longer.
Oh, for sure.
I think communication definitely builds trust. And I think employees absolutely have different levels. There's some people that want to grow. There's some people that want to show that they're capable. They want to be more than just a cleaning tech. I think they need to have a framework with which they can work.
Yeah.
So what's their authority? What can they have conversations about? What can they try to take initiatives on? And give them a framework with which to point the direction of their ambition. And so that way you can also control a little bit of, okay, so mistakes are going to be part of the learning process and they're going to make mistakes, especially when they're trying to be what they perceive as helpful, which sometimes is not so helpful. But if you give them a framework with which to work and to say, okay, so these are the things, the types of conversations you can have, and how would you respond to these types of situations? And maybe try giving them a little bit of coaching development. So that way you're not dealing with a firecracker that they're just like letting loose everywhere. But communication definitely builds trust. So if they're bringing it back to you, then you can help coach them and guide them on how they should have responded to the situation
Yeah.
next
For sure.
time.
Yeah.
I
Because
I
we don't want
definitely
everyone to be dependent on us for every little thing, right?
right.
Like how many people at your office are like, oh my God, why they call me about that again? I can't open the door. I can't do this. Can't do that. So if they had a framework of when you reach this, here's how you should proceed. And
Yep.
sometimes you do need to teach them how to think.
I do. So we do this thing in our office where, if you have a question and you're not able to get a hold of one of us. I mean, there's 4 of us on the leadership team. It is myself and 3 others. More than likely, you're going to be able to get a hold of someone. However, if you are not able to get a hold of anybody, then I want you to make the best decision that you feel for the company and then communicate that with us and say, hey, XYZ happened. I couldn't get a hold of you. This is the decision that I made. I will never get mad at them for making a decision based on us not being available.
Yeah.
That's
But we
different.
may,
Give them a framework though for which to make that decision. So
yep.
in
But
order
we,
then to be like, what would Michelle say? What would Michelle do? How would she respond to this? Do you give them something to consider?
right. Well, so then we also talk about, the decision that they did make and why I would or would not have made that decision. And then we talk about it in our team meeting too. If it's not something that's within the framework of, you should have known what to do in this situation because, this has happened before type thing. So, but I feel like there are so many situations that could come up. It's not a cut and dry, you're locked out of the house or you broke something small. It could be that you broke something big. I've had to replace a shower, an entire shower. Um, so it could be different scenarios just because different scenarios happen all the time. And I may not know what to do either. And a lot of times what's ended up happening is it's not a decision that I would have made, but it's a better decision than what I would have made.
Yeah.
We give them a framework to think about if, and it's really the 3 C's. So how does this decision impact the customer, the coworker, and the company? And this decision should balance out the 3. It shouldn't be all one-sided for the customer. It shouldn't be all one-sided for the company. It shouldn't be all one-sided for the coworker. And if there doesn't appear to be a balance in it, then maybe they should reflect before they respond
I love
and
that.
say, I don't know, and I'll get back to you. I don't know is always a safe answer.
Yeah, and there too, I think it's also good to mention because, like Michelle said, there may be a situation where I don't know what to do. That's okay.
And it's
Sometimes,
okay, right? Sometimes it's scary to say,
we're
I don't
gonna
know.
wing it or we're going to, our instinct in some situations, I feel like is panic and we don't know what to do and we just react, and it might not be the way we should have handled it. But what your team needs to know going forward is, okay, in a panic, that's how I handled this, and that's not how I should have handled it now that I understand more what was happening or whatever. So there's always going to be that kind of circle back, aspect to it too.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Cleaning Business Chronicles. Don't forget, you can share your stories or apply to be a panelist at rescuemymaidservice.com.